Hey everybody, this is Beeling here in the corner of the man cave so you don't see the rest of the mess, but change the setup a bit so we can you can see me as I can not see you, but you can see me and what I'm drawing here at the same time. Maybe this way we can get a bit more intimate, immersive clarity of what we're doing at the same time. So last time on Storyboard Basics, welcome to Storyboard Basics. If you don't know who I am, it's your first time here. I'm Bulin Hassan. I'm a storyboard artist and illustrator here in Vancouver, BC for the last 18, 20 years. Worked on dozens and dozens and dozens of shows, done other shows like Legion for Fox. I've worked on DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3 mainly. The long history of storyboarding, lots of things, everything from video games to television episodes. The Night Agent for Netflix, specifically a couple of years ago, and they're back with the second season. And even some features here and there, a lot of Disney features. You get a lot of different people that come to you that want to know about if you can help provide clarity and vision to their work. And it always is going to start with something like drawing. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and give ourselves a little bit of a frame to start with, and we're just going to go like this. And what I want to do is I want to just recap what we had before, talking about stuff like the 180 rule. And that was, again, quick recap on that. 180 rule was you learning how, if you have a camera and the camera is right there, right around there, and then you have person and a person, those were top down, bird's eye view looking down, and the camera can only go this way or this way, behind the shoulder, over the shoulder, close-ups on each person as they're talking. And this can get a bit more complicated if you have more people and it's a full round table and there's people on both sides. Well, then the axis is going to go here. As long as the characters are looking in either direction, you can continue and move this around. And then you don't really have a solid line of axis. You have lines of axis from each character this way. If you want a breakdown of a scene of a round table of characters talking, I have a great example for you. Just let me know in the comments if you want to know that. So we know the 180 rule, and we know the actions of where they are within thirds. Let's just bring this guy back. 1/3 here. So we have the thirds rule of a character looking, and if this person is this way, looking in this direction, then the next person, whoever it may be, is looking in this direction. And we have 1, 2, 3 areas of space here. So if they're looking in this direction, this person's looking here, it looks like these two people are talking to each other when you're in the editing process. As always, we always get what our editor needs. If we don't get what our editor, if we don't think about that, if we don't get what the editor actually needs to compile the scene and all of the footage together with the director and producer and photographer, if we don't get that planned for them to shoot, to give to the editor, we're not going to be able to help finish the project the way we promise to when we get on board with a show. A lot of the times when I'm working on a show, I'm like, what are some little things? What's the style? What is the very simple thing I always ask is, what's your frame? What's your frame size? I always ask that. What's your frame size? Let's see if I got some black marker here. My kid likes to come and use my art supplies, and she loves daddy's markers. And as you can see, Copic is making a lot of money off me. So I'm going to go and find another black pen where we talk about frame sizes. And so you're going like, what's a frame size? Well, it's really, really simple. What is a frame size? The frame sizes are your width and height of your frame. So if we have, and here we got a fresher-ish marker, it's a few years old, but my kid hasn't used it, but this will do for us right now. So what I'm just doing is just a really quick frame, and I'm just creating a basic storyboard template. I could show you on the iPad, but then you don't get this organic feel for things. This is your traditional frame size. This is your traditional 19 by 20 frame size right here. So I'm just going to get like a different colored pen here. This is 19 by 20 by 1080 right there. Okay, 1080. This is your traditional frame size. You're going to find anywhere in any show. Every television show is legitimately done this way, all shot this way, 1920 by 1080. This is what we call, oh my God, my kid used all my tools. I should have prepped that before she went ahead. This is what we call 16 by 9. 16 by 9 is that. Okay, and I'll keep this marker knowing it works now. Now, what's really funny is that the way things have moved around and changed is that when you have 16 by 9, this is television right here. That's your TV screen right now on your wall, over the fireplace, above your bed or near your bed or wherever. Your iPhone, your social media is 916. This is 916, people. So when you try and film something at, this is what we call portrait. This is 916. This is social media. This is Facebook, Instagram Reels, TikTok, Blue Sky. I'm not on that. You know, all of those things. That is social media right there. I'm just going like this right there. Social media. I show my phone, but it's attached to this right now to show you this. That is social media. This is television and most films. Not all films, most films. If we were to go ahead and completely switch it up, and so you can understand a bit more, a really simple way of getting people to kind of comprehend what our frame sizes are is by kind of going over the aspect ratios. And I think we need to kind of go over that a bit more. If this is 5.5, then we got to go 5.5 again, right? So we got to go boom, like that. 5.5 and then 5.5 right there. This is 5.5 by 5.5. What do we have here? 5.5 by 5.5. This is your traditional super old school television from before HD took over. His television is right here. So why do we have this established here? Why do we care so much about the frame sizes? Well, it's really simple. If you don't understand, wrong pen, people. This is why I like to do this. It's raw. We're doing this live. If you get that reference, you're awesome. If you don't get that reference, look it up and you'll understand where all of those jokes came from. So we'll make a traditional TV frame size right here. And then I'm going to put a bunch of other lines here, and then you're going to understand what's going on. So a really great example of why we have television at this frame rate and early cell phone videos. Early cell phone videos were square because that was our camera depth. That's what we had for pixels. It was 268 by 268, 360 by 360, 420 by 420. Then it went up and went up. Once our sensors got bigger, 1920 by 1080. Now we're up to 8 to 16K, 16,000 resolution. So it's a bit nuts that telephones can record 48,000 resolution when IMAX cameras are about 16,000. If I'm incorrect on that, you can go ahead in the comments and correct me there. But it's that. So this is your traditional television is 4 by 4 or such. It's just square. Right there is a square box traditional old school television. So if you were to in old days, if you went ahead and you looked at movies that were projected on TV and then they put black bars here and here. And everyone's TVs were boxes back in the day, and I'm sure someone's parents will be able to tell this, and people watching this in the know would know this. Gen Xers know this very well. You would put on a thing that says, ooh, in widescreen on VHS. They put the black bars on top and bottom because a frame of film is actually 35 by 35. But they cropped it to have it at 239. Cinema is wrong tip. Cinema is 235 by 1. This is the widescreen. There's even wider, and that's a Lawrence of Arabia, and that's when it goes really wide, and that's like 269. That is like insane, or 275. It's just a ridiculous aspect ratio to have. But that's when they want to capture an entire large, wide vista, like the deserts and the sands of the Sahara in Northern Africa. So when we have 235:1, you've got yourself Star Wars. You've got yourself 70 millimeter. You've got them filming in a box, but using what they called anamorphic lenses, which kind of stretched everything out, had this strange compression. And once you kind of had it reprojected and put out to this aspect ratio, it looked perfect. So this is when we have this sort of aspect ratio. We also, so that's 235:1, that's cinema, and that's everything you see in the theaters today. Avengers Endgame, the movie to end all movies, 235:1. Then you've got your 16:9, which is 1920 by 1080. That is your traditional television framing set. So if you also have your 181, this is another one, slightly taller. If this were to go about here, and this is 118:1, I believe, and this is a traditional right here. Just make these markers. This is your 181, like 118:1, I think. I'll double check that for everyone. This is your traditional frame size that Spielberg would make. Schindler's List, Jurassic Park, all those films had this tall and wide aspect ratio. Not totally wide, like 235. Some movies did take that, but when you go to a 235 aspect ratio and you have the right anamorphic lenses on, that's what happens. If you know these things going into anything, you'll understand how to prepare with your directors of what's going on. If you understand the frame sizes, the aspect ratios of what's happening in a frame with a character just showing up, my kid went through this one as well. And they're like, we have a person here like this, and then we have the background like that. We know that this is going to be a close-up in the theater. This person's going to have them, like a Tom Cruise is going to have his big close-up moment here before he starts running. So if we have this guy here, let's say he's just jumping, whatever is happening here, that's how big that close-up's going to be in a theater where people are going to look like this big watching him. That's why he's a big movie star, because physically he's bigger on screen. If you understand this, of how important this aspect ratio is to any project walking in, if it's going to be your 16:9, if it's going to be 235:1, if it's going to be even wider screen like anime will go top and bottom black bars and just goes and sucks in everything inside, then you're going to understand how they play with aspect ratios as well. A great film that really plays with aspect ratios is the Grand Budapest Hotel. Every era that film takes place in 4 different time zones changes aspect ratios as well as film stock. That's another thing entirely. We're not going to get into film stock. I rarely ask about film stock, considering everything is digital film these days. So if we know that this is a 235, this is a 16:9, that's 181, and this is just square. Why is the square so relevant? If you guys remember when Zack Snyder had the Snyder Cut release of the Justice League, and if you watched it, it was square because this was IMAX. So IMAX is a big square piece of film. It's not just any square piece of film. Film usually goes top down, filming through the camera. And IMAX traditionally films sideways. To make the frame that big, they just flipped it and they found more real estate space within that. So if you understand that he wanted to have an IMAX frame for everything, you have this huge, glorious big frame. Yes, they could fill up the sides a bit more, but when you frame something that's going to be this big, you kind of want to take advantage of what that kind of camera and its lenses and the capabilities that camera has, and how you want to frame and how you want to film. So something like understanding your aspect ratios is going to really help you get ahead of the game when it comes to framing, composition, timing, and action when it comes to whatever sequence it is you're working on. So That is your basic aspect ratio. So let's just get another sheet and let's go to the next thing. Aspect ratio. They are your friend. Understand this. They are your friend and you want to use them as much as possible. Here we go. We're going to have another one. We're going to set this up. So let's go here. Let's make a quick little. My daughter has not used this up yet. So we're just going to go right here. Go like this. Make a quick frame so everyone understands what's going on. We're going to do 2 frames here today. And if we understand something like aspect ratios, like we just went over, and then we go right ahead and we talk about how do we use the aspect ratio we just discussed and tell story with that. And there's a lot of ways of having that wide shot really dictate an emotion. This is the thing about film and visual storytelling, is that it's you show, you don't tell, right? You show, you don't tell. So you want to show people coming into a scene and you want to show specific things. If we're going to show that someone, a wide shot of them like this, let's just do a Superman pose here. Draw some quick primitives here. Okay. I'm not a fan of showing someone at the back. I have never been that person to go and we'll follow them from the back and we'll show their back all the time. There's a nose. Just get some rough and we'll have this here. So if we do like a pose like this, okay, and let's just use what I love a lot, which are comics. I'm a big comic book fan. Anyone who's an artist loves their comics. If you are an artist and you haven't read a comic, there is something I think wrong, because art and story live in comic as much as magic, technology, and movies do together. So we're going to have, say, a sunrise here, right? Really quickly. We have an eye line. We've established this eye line right here, okay? We've got an eye line of this character looking that direction. And there's the sun rising. And we're going to just boxes here. Those boxes are just going to be really random. We're going to get that panel done first. Let's do that. Let's work on this panel. Use this like loose eraser. We only want to just get away most of it. We just want the lines. We don't want all of it. We just want the basic structure lines here. Dropping my little. You want to keep one of these guys. I've had this for like 10 years. It works great still. Never thrown it out. Rub it, move it, fold it, play with it like Play-Doh. I love this thing. And I think my hair is actually getting in the way there. So sorry to everybody there. So I'm just going to kind of play with the structure lines here. Like that, okay? The line of action right there. So you know what? I'm going to make Superman really quick because I love Superman. I call him my space Jesus, right? And I'm just going to have him a bit more definition for the calf muscles, like that. Just go like this. All we want to do is just establish that we've got a bit of a character standing there, okay? Let's go like that. I'm just using some old school. Oh my gosh, someone's got their Copics dried. There we go. Just get some, establish the top of a building of some sort. Say he's on the top of the Daily Planet. I'm going to put the D backwards there. So he's standing next to it. So if he's on the rooftop of the Daily Planet, you know what I mean? Know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Yeah. So we're going to do that. We're just going to establish a bit of this. Really, oh my God, my markers are dry. I apologize, everyone. I didn't really prep on this, but I, had a billion things happening today. And I just wanted to do this for myself here and also for all of you. So I'm just going to go like this. Establish a bit of a cape. Nothing super detailed. Like this. I just want to get the basic structure of the arm here, and we're just going to keep them grayscale. I'm not going to add color. I have no reason to have color here. All I want to do is establish the framing of this. If I were to do this in Procreate and I do this rough this quick with my director in Procreate, they can decide whether or not they want it wider or tighter. And I'll just zoom back. If that's a separate layer, this drawing layer, just zoom back, use the transform tool, select the area, zoom back, and then make it wider. Then, it's all good. I'm just going to go like this. But we're just doing this as a learning thing today. We just want to learn. We just want to figure it out. And I think sometimes going back, and even though I draw a lot on digital, I love to go back and touching the tangible paper and the markers. That's why I like to do those comic book with sketch covers and sell those off to a bunch of people who love those characters. Just sold a bunch of them off already, so I got a couple more to do. So I enjoy doing that, just because coming back, doing things tangible like this on paper, you have to go back to your tricks of how you actually do things, and it's always kind of good to kind of figure that out. Just kind of the blocks like this, like that, at the top of the thing, and then we're going to have, your traditional stuff here. What do we have here? Ooh, he's a bit darker. Okay. So I have a mix of markers of different brands all sitting in a huge little thing here. Of course, my daughter loves to come in and play with all these things, and she loves to come and use my tools. So I bought a separate set for her. So if you have separate tools, remember to tell your kids, don't touch these, use these. These are your special ones. And then they're like, ooh, they're mine. These are my special ones. You can't touch them, Daddy. You got it, kiddo. That's how you do this. We're just going to establish we got some structure using my black markers here, Faber-Castells. And when you go back and do things tangible on paper, it's one, you reconnect with your skill. You reconnect with what it is why you got into drawing. We all learned on paper and pen and crayon. We didn't all learn to draw digital. It's just you go back to your basics. It's always good to have. Really loose. Remember, this is really loose, really, really rough. Really rough. Now I'm just going to use this little pen and give it a bit finer detail like this. Maybe we'll see a bit more of the basic details for Superman. We got the chest, the arms, back of the head. And this is before he flies up into the sky and you hear the classic John Williams music playing, which has always been my favorite. Like that. So we got that, and we're just going to sun shining, sunrise over Metropolis. Let's just get like a looser gray tone just to kind of establish some of these buildings here. Just like this. We just want this hint of blocks, fancier looking buildings like this. And if you want, it's like if you're going to do something like this and this is your board and you're going to go ahead and scan them, and as long as you have these here, you're going to replace it with an actual skyline of something. As long as you have something to start with, you can erase and delete them. Doesn't matter, man. You just want to go ahead. Add some rays, sunrise. There we go, sunrise. Sunrise to Superman in Metropolis. That's your first panel. There you go. Done. Not that far, not super detailed. It's not the best. It's not supposed to. We're just starting. If you wanted it comic booky and you wanted it was hyper detail, then you're going to work at this a lot more. And you wouldn't go on markers right away. You would kind of like, oh no, you're going to spend like, if this is a huge page, for comic, it's going to be a lot more work. But we're not doing that. We're here to establish our aspect ratio and telling a story with the aspect ratio. The story is Superman is watching the sunrise after something that's happened. So how do we do a contrasting thing here? So let's do the traditional, who's the polar opposite of Superman? We're going to have Batman. And what we're going to do is we're going to have Batman we're going to have more of a profile of Batman right there. I'm just going to go like this. Like this. Like that. I'm going to just do this weird blocking movement here. Like this. And the polar opposite of Batman is the bat symbol, right? And this is a great way to illustrate using your frame size and your paneling, right? And I think what we'll do is we'll even make Batman smaller in the frame. And the reason why, I'm going to keep a lot of the structure line for the cape. And I think what we'll do here is we're going to have like weird type of Gothic structures and steeples and like this here. And we're just going to have like, you know, if you think about the classic end of the Tim Burton movie, you know, of how the last shot is Michael Keaton Batman looking at the symbol of the bat symbol in the sky to that glorious Danny Elfman music. Well, funny story, I bring up aspect ratio and Batman. When I saw Batman when I was 14 in the theater when it first came out, yes, I was in the theater when it first came out. And I saw that big camera pan moving up to this. This was the coolest shot at the end of the coolest movie I had ever seen in high school, ever. This was the shot that nailed it all. Was the final shot of this movie to that music, the way it cut and how it ended, made you go, oh my God, it was the most satisfying movie experience I've ever had, because it all just worked and it established him as a character. So if you go ahead and you really think about how you're going to frame this, right? Like Batman's on the left looking to the sunrise, Batman left to right, and then we have left to right here. We have the bat symbol calling a Batman. So Batman is more in command in this, but he is more in service to the bat symbol calling out to him. So let's just, instead of just starting with the gray tones, let's just add in the Batman structure here. Like this. And it's really, really simple. I'm going to make sure I don't get my head in all the way like that. Because we don't, because Batman is in shadows, we also don't want to establish that he has, you know, a lot of detail. You know, maybe just a bit of the outline here and a bit of the eyes. And that's it. And just really put the blacks in. Really, really, really put those blacks in like that. And the cool thing is about when you do Batman, it's like, let's be realistic. He's a character that is engulfed in shadows, right? And he doesn't need to ever show what he looks like. You can draw a black page with eyes and a little bit of a hint of the cowl. You're done. You've got Batman. You've done it. That's why you can draw Batman on a piece of black paper and just put in a couple of white details with like white paint. You're done. Batman's coming out of the darkness. Perfect. Just like the opening of The Batman with Robert Pattinson by Matt Reeves, who's an amazing director, Matt Reeves. I've had people, I know people that have worked with him as his board artists on the Planet of the Apes films. And the one thing they said about he's very thoughtful. And he's very, very thoughtful about how he goes about his story. And as a wicked director, I'm a big fan of his work. So if we're to go ahead and we can just play a bit more with the gray tones, and we're going to contrast exactly how Batman is versus how Superman is in Metropolis. Batman and Gotham, you know, they are the two sides of the coin. So when I saw Batman in the theater and that final scene with that final shot with that rousing music for the finale was the most coolest thing I've ever seen. And then, of course, it came out on video. So when Batman came out on videotape, blocky black thing of like looks like a, it's like, what is this large piece of Duplo Lego? No, kid, that's a video cassette. We used to watch movies off of tape. People don't understand that, but now I get it's a retro thing these days. But in reality, it was actually the media we had. And we'll draw this a bit here too. And when I saw this final thing, there was something lacking. I didn't seem to really enjoy watching Batman at home on videotape, and I didn't understand at the time why that was. Because if I wanted to really enjoy that movie, it's better in the theaters versus what we have in tape on home video. And the push for home video was immense back in the day. And it was kind of like, why does this movie suck here but not in the theater? It was because of aspect ratio. Because the aspect ratio was not correct. The aspect ratio was all over the place. Scenes, the way they were framed to be in the theater, were not framed the way they were supposed to be projected on film or at home. They couldn't match it because of something as simple as this box. This box eliminated. So if you were to just say, yeah, back in the day they had videotapes and they had the black bars on top and bottom to put the whole frame of film there, and people were sick of this because it made the image smaller on their smaller screens. When you go ahead and you cut it down to be square, then you only get that much, and then you lose all of this, and you lose all of that. This huge vista. If he's talking about this land he wants to save, or Lawrence of Arabia is talking about the land that he's become enamored with on this adventure that's changed him as a person, and that landscape is cut out of the movie, you're not getting the story of Lawrence of Arabia when you don't see the Arab desert behind him. That's why he's there. That's why he's called Lawrence of Arabia. And in Batman, all I saw was a bit of that and a bit of a person, not the grand vista and that moment journey taking you up to the top of the building that made Batman, Batman, the protector of Gotham. And it's disappointing. It really is disappointing when you can't actually enjoy it because they didn't do something like carry over the frame the way it was supposed to be. But that was the technology at the time, and we had no choice. So we're just going to do a complete counter of this. This is what this is all about. So you understand how different this would look if the frame sizes were different. Years later, when Batman came back to theaters, I went and saw it, and it was better in the theater than it was on TV because they didn't cut the movie into pieces. This is why people say you can't watch movies on TV because if it is, it's destroyed. I caught my wife on one night watching The Godfather, and she had never seen The Godfather on television. I'm like, oh, great. I thought it was one of the movie channels that played them uncut. She goes, no, it's on blah, blah, blah channel. I'm like, no. Went ahead and rented on Apple TV. Rented I had to. I'm like, no, you're going to see it properly the way it was intended to. Because if it's cut out, you're not going to get a sense as to why this movie is a masterpiece of filmmaking and storytelling. And these Copic markers are officially dry. Thank you to my daughter for coming in and contributing to today's lesson of how to keep your markers dry. Keep the caps open and never close them. Thanks, kiddo. I love you. Let me see if I got anything. Oh, it's like a bit of a blender. So yeah, here we go. Maybe that'll work. Don't think you can see that. So the whole idea here is we want to go ahead and establish that Batman is alone in the dark. He is a solid. I mean, let's be realistic. We're going to use some pencils here. Batman is a solitary character. Batman is a moody character. He's a pessimistic character. He isn't an open person. He is not a trustworthy person. He's a person who is a victim of trauma. Batman is all of these things. And when Batman is all of these things, how do we go ahead and tell that in a story where this person is so traumatized that I'm just going to loosely smudge pencil. How do we tell that this character is so traumatized by what happened to him in his life that he can't trust anybody, can't have a real romantic relationship with anyone, can't be open with anyone about anything. He's tried to, and it's bit him in the ass. You know, as many times as he has a sidekick, he still keeps him at distance. That's why they go and they take off and they become their own person. They become their own character. They become their own hero, right? Thanking Batman for the opportunity, but hey, you know what? It was great, but I think I gotta go do my thing there, Bats. You know, and the best thing that ever happened was Robin having Teen Titans, and me and my kid love to watch Teen Titans to go. Add a bit more just some shadow detail to Batman here. So Batman is dark, brooding. Everyone, he's the greatest superhero of all time. He's actually not even a superhero. He's a vigilante. He's a vigilante detective, right? He brings those to justice because he's traumatized from the injustice from his childhood of losing his parents. It's just that simple, you know. That's how you tell the story of a Batman, of a person who is crazy enough to go ahead and dress like a frightful character at night because this person is dealing with trauma. This person is closed off, hence him crouched down on the edge of the building, looking down as the symbol has called to him that they need the Batman. That is what that's about. He is a servant, not a slave, a servant to the call of justice, to an extreme form of justice, right? And that's what Batman is. He is a servant to the dark because the dark is where he can go and attack those who live in it. And I think now is like the time you can go ahead and put in your Bane impression right here of by Tom Hardy. You can go ahead and do that from Dark Knight Rises. Insert Tom Hardy impression now, you know. And that's legitimately what this is. I mean, who is this guy? He's defined by his trauma, right? Everyone is defined by their trauma. Left to right, servant. He is the servant to that symbol. He is not Bruce Wayne. He is Batman, servant to the symbol of, which is now what that is. When this happens, you know service, like justice is going to happen. When you see this, left to right, Superman watching the dawn rise, hope of a new day. Superman symbolizes the hope. Superman symbolizes, in this left to right wide shot, symbolizes a new dawn, a new day, a new chance at something good. And here, when the good goes bad, that's when you call out the big guys. And that's how you set up and tell your story with aspect ratio, understanding the frames and understanding your aspect ratio, understanding your camera composition, your placement, and how you can use that best to tell your story. That's it for today. Thanks for coming by, guys. If you guys have any questions or want to see me attack some sort of problem you've come up with your projects, let me know in the comments below, wherever you watch this. Like, subscribe, hit the bell on YouTube, be notified for the next video. This is Storyboarding Basics. I'm Bilal Hassan. You're awesome. See you later.